How's it going, Smart Start? I am your, once again, host one of two, Eming Piansay.
And host 202 here, Sara Robertson. Welcome back to Smart Start Radio for a very special edition, but not quite a special edition, more like the birth of something new that we're trying out. And this episode is going to be a little different than other ones that we have done because in former episodes, we always bring in a person to interview and talk about a specific topic in the industry. This time, however, we are going to talk about Smart Start. And if you've been following along this podcast for a while now, you know that it's been a journey. And so we're going to kind of give you a little bit behind the scenes and introduce the launch of this new thing that we are trying within Smart Start. Now, do not fret. Episodes, as usual, are going to remain the same every month. We will have an amazing interview for you with tons of great educational content to help you learn and grow alongside us. But we're going to be introducing a new set of episodes alongside it.
Yeah, so I don't know if we dropped the name of this. Sarah, do you want to introduce the title, or did we already do that? Or did I miss that?
We didn't. So true to our nature and true to us both having our cups of coffee here, we are calling this series Coffee Chats.
Woot woot.
Welcome to Smart Start Radio Coffee Chats, where Eming and I sit down with a good cup of coffee, a good cup of joe, or tea. Coffee,
or
joe,
water,
tea.
eventually.
Water is good too. Stay hydrated, y'all. But over this nice warm or cold drink, whatever it may be, we are going to chat about something. This episode being about Smart Start in general, since it's a launch, right? But future episodes, you know, interesting articles we've written or are writing, things that we're discovering in the industry, and really just opening this series up to be even more of a conversation between us and you. And as we all explore this industry together, whether we're newer or older in the industry, we're always learning. That's what's so special about it, I think, is that everyone's always learning and people love it.
So to kind of add on to what Sarah's saying, instead of our usual once a month episodes, you'll be hearing us 3 times a month, which is a considerable upgrade to what you were hearing before. So outside, as she said, outside of our really huge ones that we drop once a month, we will be coming to you at least twice a month after that with these little chats. So you can we can kind of speak more on bigger things, us, what we're working on, stuff like that. So we really hope you enjoy this.
Yeah.
Process. I know I will, because I'm
excited.
I like it.
I like it too. Before we do anything else, though, we do have some news to share.
It's personal breaking news.
Our personal breaking news, Smart Start's breaking news. So as you heard us mention in the beginning of our last episode, we had been nominated for an ASBE Award. ASBE is an award, a set of awards for specifically the publication industry, of which they have a podcast category. So we were nominated for a regional award for Best New Podcast. And since then, a couple days ago, we heard back
the Bronze Award, which is really cool. I've been doing podcasts for 8 years and never got an award before. So this is pretty big. This is Sarah's first podcast ever. So it's big on all fronts. And
it is.
I'm super proud of us. We are literally turned 1 year old like a month ago, and we have an award. That's unheard of in my mind.
It's pretty amazing.
That's amazing.
It's a huge deal because, as Eming said, we literally turned 1 year old about a month ago. We launched this podcast in February of 2024, I believe. Maybe March. Maybe our first episode came out in March. I can't remember. But it was a great episode on work-life balance with Valerie Ulrich and Spencer Glazer. So if you haven't listened to it, go give it a listen. But and since then we have done so many amazing episodes and talked to some brilliant people. This is one of my favorite things that I do over here at Smart Meetings, is recording these podcasts, talking to these people and exploring this content and these insights. And to have that recognized in an award is just so affirming. And we've put so much work into this, so much love into this. So it's such a huge deal. And this is my first podcast ever. I had never done podcasting before we started this. Eming has been doing podcasting for a little while and is a bit of an expert, as one would say.
Sure. Let's say that. But
I mean, like, Yeah, Eming, what do you think about like the significance of winning an award, like based on your experience in podcasting?
Well, yeah, I mean, as it's well, okay. So people often say to me, like, everyone has a podcast. Like, you can swing your arm and hit someone with a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to do. It's just from where I stand, it's like about how good is it? Is it just you doing Zoom and then just uploading without editing and no music and just like talking with no like context or anything? Or do you actually like put hours into it to like make it like be the best that it can be?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we
Polished.
do that every month.
Yeah.
We try, like, we really want to put out the best content
Mm-hmm.
for our audience. And
Yeah.
the music industry, you know, it's a very special market because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not everyone understands like what actually goes on in our industry. And we try to find the words and the people and the dialogue to really explain like how this impacts the bigger scale of things. And
Yeah.
I feel like we try really hard to do that on our part. So it really makes me happy that someone saw that. They're like, hey, you know, they're really creating content that is doing something, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about like this is such a niche industry, and I think that we work really hard to make sure that we are representing the bigger picture. We're talking to so many people doing so many different things. Like a couple of recent episodes, we talked about the culinary world and specifically in the Bay Area and what dining means to people and how it brings people together. Whether or not you're in the events industry, that matters. We talked later about neuroaccessibility with Megan Henschel and, you know, not only why it's important in events, but why it's important for neuroaccessibility to be part of the way we function as a society to make sure that people feel included and seen and cared for. That's bigger. Events have a lot of power to make that happen in broader society, but it goes wider than events. You know, it touches the whole world. And events, I think, I mean, everyone sees them. You know, we know about these conferences and trade shows and things going on. You see signs around the city, but if you're not in the events world, you don't understand just like how big of an impact it has on transforming how the world works.
Yeah. Prior to working at Smart Meetings, I would go to events and I would never think about these aspects of it, like never. And then now that I'm like, you know what? These could have been applied to my thought process earlier in my life.
Yeah,
had
totally.
I known there was a whole industry dedicated to this.
Totally.
And now it's like, you know, it's the business of people being in one room together and communicating and sharing ideas. And and we often talk about like why the larger world doesn't like really give us our flowers in that respect. And I think it's because, you know, they see it as something like, oh, I do this all the time. I don't even see it as like an industry because we just do it. But you are part of the industry. You may not be like hosting podcasts or webinars about it, but you're involved in it somehow, and you technically belong to this community, even if you don't like identify with it immediately. You do. You do belong here. And I hate to plug that because that's actually her tagline, but it's true.
It is. No, it's true. I mean, even if you're an attendee, you've never even thought about the events industry. Say you're a tech worker, you know, you go to events all the time. You have event planners working in your companies who are setting up these, you know, in-office moments for hybrid workers to bond with each other. You know, like there's the events industry happening in real life, in real time for every single individual who works, you know. And even like outside of work, you know, there are like community events going on, like cultural events happening around cities and things like that. You know, events are everything. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. One thing I kind of wanted to explore for our episode is, so if you kind of go back to our very beginning, like Sarah said, we were a whole different podcast. We were meetings of the mind. And that we didn't really know what we were. Like we were trying to be this, but we didn't really know what this was yet.
Yeah. We sort of launched Meeting of the Minds because, well, the premise behind it was having intergenerational conversations and seeing, you know, like the original goal was to kind of look at how Gen Z is entering this workforce and what's going on with like how they're communicating with people who have been in it for a long time and how we can all learn from one another. And that's also something that has to do with like me and Eming being from different generations and like working so closely together. And like, you know, as we said, this is my first podcast. Eming's been doing it for around 8 years. So we both bring our own perspectives. Yeah, so that's what Meeting the Minds was really about. But it was sort of a figuring it out as we go along type of thing, which let's be real. I mean, what isn't? Life is.
That's true. But I think for us, like, we, excuse me, we really wanted to create like a brand for ourselves. Like, this was kind of the whole idea. And I think a big part of that was like being authentic, being honest. And we talk about that concept so much. And as someone who I've been accused of being too honest. But I'm like, I don't know how else to be. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you want me to lie? But and so when we were talking about like, you know, bringing our truest selves to this podcast, I was like, do people want to actually know our true selves? Like, is that something people actually want to hear about? But I think what we can give to our audience is like, you know, people. So having worked in podcasts for as long as I have, like, people have a fear of being honest, like being their most selves. And when I would suggest to people, I'm like, you should start a podcast because you're really good at it. And I feel like you could, you know, convey certain feelings, and they get very timid.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Why are you so timid?
Right.
And in that respect, it's like, you know, it's in order to like create like if you're in hospitality and you're trying to create your own brand of like, this is what I can offer. It's like offering your authentic self in any capacity is what is ultimately going to be your goal. Because why would you want to work with someone who you feel is, you know, being kind of fake?
Right.
Who wants that?
That
Who
doesn't feel hospitable. I mean, and that's what hospitality is like this, creating this energy, this space where people feel comfortable and welcomed. And if you're holding back, trying to like sort of hide parts of yourself, if you're letting, you know, maybe shyness hold you back and things like that, it's not going to feel as comfortable, as welcoming. And, you know, people reflect the energy that they see, right? If you're holding yourself back, other people are probably going to hold themselves back as well, and vice versa. If you see people sort of operating with a barrier, like say at a conference even, or like not welcoming you into a group. I heard someone talk about like being at conferences and like sort of trying to create space for newcomers to feel welcomed. Don't stand in a circle and talk, stand in a croissant. So there's an open space for somebody to enter. Yeah. And like, I personally have experienced that at conferences where I'm like walking around and everyone's standing in circles and I don't know a single soul in the room. And I am like, well, I don't know what to do here.
Right.
It's so uncomfortable. And I think we can apply the same thing with podcasting. It's like you, like by operating with authenticity, by being open, you're just more engaging to listen to.
Right.
I think that was something that I personally struggled with when we first started out Meeting the Minds.
Bring that up a little bit, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, like Eming said to me, like, "Hey, like, you seem a little stiff," and I was like, "I feel a little stiff."
Well, it was more so I'd be watching you, I'd be watching you, and I thought your screen was frozen, and I was like, "Is she there?"
Right.
But you were either focused on the script you had wrote or the person that was talking.
Yeah.
And I didn't want you to have like this fear, I guess, of like this experience where it's different, it's new, you have to like be on. And it's a muscle. It's a muscle you have to train.
It is.
Or else it just sputter out.
Exactly.
So
I started
you definitely grew a lot in this process. Like
Thank you.
You got less stiff, which I appreciated.
Yeah. Well, really I think that I was really trying to hold myself a certain way, right? Like I was trying to mold this particular personality and I wanted it to be like super professional and, you know, like representing Smart Meetings as like this very professional platform that has these amazing intellectual, brilliant conversations. But by doing that, I was actually holding myself back from achieving those goals. When I ditched the script and just started talking like me, talking to people the way that I do in private interviews, that I do for stories, having conversation, like on a human to human level, that's it's a better conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I have more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more fun to listen to because it feels real.
Yeah, and I think for our episode specifically, I feel like since we've changed our format a little bit, like we've become more open, and therefore our guests open up, and it's always really great when we like hit a stride, a conversation where we're just like in it, and I stop looking at like the clock at some point. I forget how long we've been recording because there's the trust factor of like I'm in this with you. I'm not gonna take this and create a fake news scenario. Like this is a conversation that we're having, and it's important, and we think it's important, and you feel it's important. And you know, that being authentic, and then people trusting you based on that works on every level in any industry that you work in, especially hospitality.
Right.
Because people can spot people who aren't being totally real. It's really easy to spot that.
And I think it kind of comes back to our tagline of like, you belong here, right? I mean, like formerly, and when we were doing Meeting of the Minds, I was trying to, as I said, represent Smart Meetings as like super professional, like really brilliant, amazing. Like I was holding myself to way too high of standards. I was holding this podcast to way too high of standards. By letting go a little bit, the conversations are actually deeper, and they hold more like richness of information and things that we're learning. And it's such a weight off your shoulders to allow yourself to just be yourself. I think it, like, honestly, rebranding this podcast represents Smart Meetings better. And we've created our own energy as Smart Start itself. And now we can say Smart Start Radio, an award-winning podcast. We can Which I love that for us. So awesome. That's so good. I'm so proud of us. We've worked so hard. Blood, sweat, and tears, you guys. Like, truly.
So many. Mainly tears.
Mainly tears. Some sweat. Not a lot of blood.
Not blood. I mean, unless, like, we fall while we're recording. But no blood.
No.
Thankfully. Knock on wood. I had
knock on wood. I have wood on my desk.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so when it came to, like, actually rebranding from Smart Start, to Smart Start from Meeting of the Minds, that was quite a journey as well, because like it kind of started with like I was reading off a script, and it wasn't like what's up? What were you gonna say?
We weren't really in a position to like put ourselves in this yet. Like that was the shift. Like we were like, we're just like the conveyors of these people who are coming on the show. We're not gonna like, put our bias on something.
We were thinking that's not journalism
or whatever.
Yes. We were not gonna put our bias into it. That's exactly what it was. We were thinking about it like writers, because at the end of the day, that's what Eming and I spend most of our time doing. The podcasting is sort of a passion project, I would say. And when we're writers, like we don't put our own bias into it. Like we're seeking to tell a story based on research that we've done, and I think we were sort of approaching those interviews as research and trying to take the information that somebody gave us and convey it to you. But then we started to consider, what if we have opinions? What if we have shared those opinions?
That's radical,
isn't it? I will also say, I think that we, like the name, Meeting of the Minds. I am a big fan of alliteration. I studied English. I have a bachelor's degree in English.
Go off.
I love alliteration so much. If you look at my articles, most of the titles rely on alliteration. They really do. It's true.
I have to go back and look now.
Like, it just sounds so much better. But Meeting the Minds was maybe not the best name to go. It was, for our goal then, was to have like intergenerational conversations. The minds are meeting. But then we were thinking about, okay, this podcast isn't seeing the results, the attention that we want, and it's not quite conveying stories in the way that we want to either. So we need to rebrand.
Yeah. I mean, it helped because if you look at like our stats, you see this go just
after the rebrand
upward slide. It's really funny. It's like, so
it's really cool.
That did affect it. Like there was a difference in how we were presenting things. And I think this is not just for us, like anyone, because like so many people are like, they're trying to like find a brand for themselves that makes sense, that people can connect with. And we're still trying to figure out that, because that's not easy to do. But I feel like if you kind of like just think about it. You're like, what am I trying to achieve at this moment? What am I trying to do? Who am I trying to reach? And granted, like I said, our thing is still trying to figure itself out. Like, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
I mean, so not done
we're
yet.
Literally, this episode is launching another new thing.
I know.
It's a step towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if any capacity, if you're a planner, if you're a venue, if you're anyone in this industry, like it all comes back to like how people perceive you and how you want to be perceived and how are you putting yourself out there in a way that people see themselves.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small part.
See themselves reflected.
Of themselves in what you're saying.
So
and that means a lot.
Yeah. So one of the things that we sort of determined, well, okay, I'll backtrack a little bit. We decided we needed to rebrand, right? And then there was this day in like July or something. Maybe it was July, maybe it was late June. Hot summer in Sausalito. And Eming and I were like, okay, listen, we need to figure this out. So we went into the conference room and closed the door and started scribbling on the whiteboard. And we're like, what do we want this to be? We want it to be personal, and we want to have a little bit more of ourselves infused into this podcast. So like we're changing from the intergenerational conversations to the point of the show is conversations, right? And maybe it's about exploration and exploring the breadth of this industry. And so maybe Eming and I are active participants in conversation who are learning alongside the listener. And that's sort of what we determined the character of this podcast would be. And if you listen to our first episode since the rebrand, where we interviewed Gary Diedrich, who is our editor at large at Smart Meetings, and we talked about his experience as a journalist in this industry. Eming and I, as younger writers than him, wanted to sort of learn from him for ourselves and explore his breadth of knowledge in the industry. Every single guest that we've spoken to since, we're asking them questions about their experience, trying to take bits and pieces away for ourselves. And in that way, you, the listener, is able to do so for yourself. So that's sort of what we determined the podcast would be. And this was all, you know, the result of locking ourselves in a conference room and scribbling on the whiteboard for literal hours.
When you said that, I had an image of the movie Saw in my head.
Oh, God.
Not obviously that graphic. Sorry.
Horrifying.
I know. I have a dark sense of humor. I'll try to not make that seep into the podcast too much, I promise.
Well, speaking of Saw, at one point I was on a fam trip in Tampa Bay before Destinations International. Visit Tampa Bay hosted me and a couple of other journalists on a fam out there, and there is at JC Newman's cigar factory, we took a tour. They have this basement where they store all of these cigars, right? Because they need to kind of like sit like wine, you know? And this basement, they told us, fun fact, they had actually a scene of the Saw movie, or a couple of scenes, was filmed there. They used it as a film site. I don't remember which one.
Okay, it's fine. I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
freaky. But
like, yeah, they told us that, and I was like, interesting. It's actually a really beautiful factory. If you're ever in Tampa Bay and you have a chance to take a tour, you really should. But it's a fun little backstory, like, oh my gosh, I'm on a film site right now. That's cool.
we actually, I feel like I get a lot of random little tidbits of information on fam trips. Just like little nuggets. I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
Right now. But I'm just like, wow, that's cool.
Right?
Like, that's like that's one of the biggest perks, I think, of our job, is that we get to go to these destinations and then learn about them, and then learn things that we would have never known had we not been there, which I think is really cool.
Well, so I have one. I literally got back from Toronto last night. I was on a fam trip, and like with Discover Toronto, and I was staying at the St. Regis Toronto, beautiful hotel, by the way. But they were telling us, as we were taking this hotel tour, little tidbits of history about the St. Regis brand, about the hotel itself. And so apparently John Jacob Astor, wait, I have it in my notes. Let me make sure I'm saying this name right. Yeah, John Jacob Astor is the founder of the St. Regis brand, right?
Okay.
And so he founded this brand, and he was a passenger on the Titanic. And he died. He died on the Titanic, but his pregnant wife survived, and his mother, Caroline Astor, then carried on the St. Regis brand. That is the story behind the St. Regis brand. Isn't that
That's
crazy? Wild. Right?
There's that side note. This is related. I mean, it's related, but there was a new like a new documentary on the Titanic that just dropped, and I wanted to watch it. Anyways, it's so not related to what we're talking about, but just FYI in case you're interested. I think it's on not Discovery, National Geographic.
Cool.
Yeah, just FYI in case you want to check that out. In case anyone wants to check that out, because who doesn't love that kind of stuff? I know I love historical
really interesting
stuff. So that's really cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, but yeah, I know. Like it's really sad, but like it's also really amazing. Like his mom carried on the brand, and that's like crazy. Then like his wife, his pregnant wife, went on to like have this child, and like the brand was like passed down like hotel brands have been, you know, like you think about the Marriott family, right? So yeah, I know.
That's wild. They don't talk about stuff like that.
No,
they really don't. That's fascinating.
It's so cool, right? I mean, like, cool isn't the right word. It's incredibly sad, you know.
Well, it's sad, but it's really interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah. Right.
Well, consider this a really good example of our future episodes. Random factoids that are interesting and on the fringes of our industry, which I think you know everyone has interest in stuff like this. So
I mean, and that's what Smart Start is, right? It's exploring those fringes. It's exploring the many arms of the industry and where they fit in. And like once again, at its core, Smart Start, we are learning alongside you. You know, whether you are new to this industry or you've been in it for years. One thing I hear again and again from people in this industry is, I am always learning. I am always learning. And if you don't take the opportunity to continually learn, you are not going to grow in this industry and build your career the way that you want to. Learning is fundamental to any industry, but it's really, really crucial and important to people in this industry, particularly in events.
Yeah. And if our audience, if you guys, if there's a topic you guys want us to talk about in this particular part of the show, please let us know, because we're basically down for anything.
Yeah.
We love chit-chatting. We love going on rants and tangents of sorts.
For like we could probably keep this going for hours. Yeah, like we're like really good at talking to each other. Like like truly, like we just keep going. We can keep going.
Verbal or chat or Slack or other thing. Yeah, it's not hard. It's
we
really
had a Slack conversation yesterday when I was in the airport, and I was like, I'm so hungry. And she was like, the like travel hunger is so real. And I'm like, the international travel. I just got through customs and now I'm getting a giant hamburger.
I wonder if you went, which restaurant were you at? Because I think I went to the same airport as you.
Oh yeah, I was at, it was a burger bar. It might have been the same one. Yeah. But like you sit at the bar, you scan a code and they bring you a burger. Yeah. It was awesome.
I think it was the same.
Yeah.
Oh God, you definitely gotta love those airport burgers, because those are probably the safest things that I would.
Oh my God, honestly, I also got onion rings, by the way.
Good choice. So good choice.
Yeah, I love onion rings.
Well, hopefully you guys are sufficiently hungry now that we've talked about food.
Yeah.
But like I said, please drop us a note at our email at editor@smartmeetings.com if there is a suggestion that you want this particular chat to explore on Coffee Chat. We're open to it. Please let us know. And if you want us to have a different talk for our other bigger, longer show, also let us know.
A topic you're interested in, want to learn about.
Things.
Yes.
Story ideas are always
we really do. And this is such a fun way to tell a story, like at the end of the day.
Definitely.
There was one thing that I wanted to mention, how with Meeting of the Minds, we had chosen that name because the alliteration was so awesome. And I don't know if you've noticed, but this title also has alliteration in it. And even, I don't know if you remember, but I think I pushed for that Smart Start SS.
Maybe. You're maybe right. I don't really remember.
Yeah, we wrote down a big long list of potential names. Yeah, we used like ChatGPT to generate some names. And I was like, I need alliteration. I need it. We need alliteration. But the subtitle, Bright Ideas from the Planner's Toolbox, Bright Ideas from the Meeting Prof's Toolbox. Is that what we're calling it now? Okay, then edit that out.
I don't even know what it is.
I don't either.
I didn't change it. We just changed it because not my idea.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's not that though. It should be. I did like that one.
Oh,
better.
well, that's the one. Oh, fuel for the purpose generation of meeting planners.
Because she wanted to make it more.
Yeah, but we need to update that on the actual Smart Start homepage then.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll do that today.
Okay.
But thank you guys for joining our first episode of Coffee Chat.
It's so exciting. I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad that we'll be a little more often in your podcast world.
Yeah,
I love this. This is great.
Me too.
And I hope we get to do way more and explore way more. And we hope you guys, let us know how you feel about this.
Absolutely.
And
please do reach out. We want to hear from you so bad. We love doing this. As I said earlier, this is totally like a passion. It started out as a passion project and now it's really grown into something very beautiful. And we would love to hear from you, what you think, what you want to hear about. We are all for it.
And if you want us to be a part of your events, we probably also do that too. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we do.
That's true.
I think we do.
But yeah, we hope a lot comes out of this. I hope so. Anyways.
I hope so. Thank you for listening to Smart Start Radio, an award-winning podcast.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.